Okay, now that we got done with page 62 in the advanced metal framing, I'm figuring out how to do mathematical formula to get the degree setting for this track bender. We're actually going to go through the steps now of calibrating the machine. It's just like I showed in the video, but this is called more of a live thing. Everything that I do to this track bender, you will be able to see it on the monitor. Yes, Kaka. Okay. All right. Kaka was asking, he didn't understand why this knob right here next to the track, to the degree setting gauge, why does that have to be loose before you set the degree? Kaka, if you give me a minute, once we walk through the steps, I'll be able to answer your question. Okay? We cool? All right. Okay, so what I got is a piece of scrap material. You have to pay attention to your stock type, because even though a 3 and 5 track 20 gauge is a 3 and 5 track 20 gauge, a lot of them have different, how can we say, components to them. Okay, some of them are shinier than others. Some of them have more zinc than others. So for that reason, every stock is going to bend different. So you make sure that the piece of track that you have is for the stock that you're going to use for your product. So I got a piece of track here. What I am going to do first is I'm going to make sure all my knobs are tight. Make sure my gauge glass is tight. Now we'll lift the handle and open the gate. I am going to slide my track through. For the first bend of the calibration, I usually go about 4 to 6 inches from the edge of the track to that red mark. So I would say that's probably about 4, maybe a little more. Now I'm going to close the gate. Now I'm going to grab the handle. When you push down on the handle, it has to be a consistent flow. It's going to seem a little weird here because I'm facing on the back of the bender, but that's because I want you to see what I am doing. Okay, now pay attention, because when we go out to the shop, you guys are going to have to do exactly what I did and be able to calibrate your machine to, at minimum, 1/10 of a degree. Then you guys are going to have to go out there and bend a 4-foot radius and an 8-foot radius, and it can't be no more than 1/4 inch or no less than 1/4 inch. So pay attention, because this is going to be very important. So now that I have that set up and I got my handle down, I'm going to grab the handle and I'm going to push down. Soon as you hear that click, that is your stop indicating click, you're going to stop pulling down on the machine. The machine has reached its limit. Yes, Sarah. Sarah asks, what happens if you keep pushing the handle past the sound of the click? Well, the machine has met its max intention, how can I say, move, you know. So what happens is, now if you keep pushing it past that, there's a good chance eventually you're going to end up damaging the machine. This is a $5,000 machine, and I don't think your contractor is going to be too happy you're trying to break this toy. Okay, so now you're going to lift the handle, open the gate. Now you see there's a slight bend on there. Okay, you see the crimp. Okay, now later on, after we show the calibration, I'm going to show you how important that crimp is, because that's going to show you how to correct your track if it's overbent. Okay, so now you're going to go ahead and grab the gauge ruler. What you're going to do on this gauge ruler, they call this the hourglass. So you're going to take the center of this hourglass and you're going to put it to the center of your bend. So we will set that up, center the hourglass to the center of my bend, and you have to make sure that this side of the ruler is flat with the bottom of the track. Once you find your point, I usually put my finger at the corner as my pivot point. Then I let that side drop. Now I'm letting the left side of the track come in contact with the bottom of the ruler, and this side this side over here is off of the track. Now you're gonna read the numbers, and that is gonna say that I am bending at a 1.3 degrees. Okay, now I'm gonna set this down. Now I'm gonna go to my glass gauge. I'm gonna go to my glass gauge, and I am gonna use the blue line on top. You can barely see it, but there's a line right here, a blue line, and there's a red line right down here. I'm gonna take that blue line on top, and I'm gonna see where I'm reading at, and I am reading at 1.6. So what I am gonna do is, I will take this, loosen this nut right here, and now I will move my blue line to 1.6. Okay, now remember, there's 3 columns here of degrees. Each column will represent your 6-inch, your 3 and 5, and your 2 1/2. So if you're gonna calibrate 3 and 5, you're gonna use a 3 and 5 product, you have to use the 3 and 5 gauge. 6-inch, you use the 6-inch gauge, and so on and so forth. The 2 1/2, you use the 2 1/2 side of the gauge. Okay, so now that I got it set at 1.3, I will take my piece of metal back, open up the handle, open up the gate. Now, one thing you will notice, that now you have an indentation of a dot. That indentation is caused by your marker pin. This is your marker pin. It looks like it's just a regular drill bit tip. What that does is, now do you remember when we were talking about figuring out the degrees? You would have to figure out if you want to bend a 4-inch, have a 4-inch bend space, 6-inch, 8-inch, 12-inch, so on and so forth. So, once you have that indicator set, we have it set here for a 4-inch bend. Every 4 inches, every time you push the handle down, that will leave a mark. That mark, when you slide it back on, we will slide that mark to meet that red marker tape right there. See if I bend this, you can see a little better. There it is. There's that mark, there's that tape. So, I got it there, bend this, close the gate, grab the handle, I listen to my sound. The sound, you gotta treat it like it's almost mom screaming at you. Hey, stop what you're doing, Frankie. Okay, so I take the track out. There's my indentation mark. Here's my ruler gauge. Find your hourglass. Center of the hourglass is to the center of your bend. Flat, pivot finger, let it drop. Drop it like it's hot. Now, 1.3. Now this machine is calibrated to myself. Yes, Josh? Okay, Josh asked that, let's say he goes to break. Is there any chance that Gaga could come in and just start bending where he take off, where he left off? Yeah, you can, but the possibility of an incorrect bend is very high. Because between you and him, you guys don't have the same pull strength, the same consistency. So he will have to recalibrate the machine to himself. Okay, the worst thing that you want to do is underbend a piece of track. Overbending isn't bad, because what happens is, well, not if you don't overbend too much. It will cause a lot more work. These indentations that we talked about, that we read about in the book, if you overbend your track, let's say you start on one side of the line, and when your curve's going, your track is having more of a curve than what your radius is. You are gonna go ahead and you are gonna bang these indentations, indentations, okay? And then once you do that, you open your track back up. But we will continue to do that, talk more about that when we go out in the shop and you guys bend your track. Okay, so now do we stop there with the calibration? Oh no. Let's go ahead and take the number that we figured out earlier for 12-foot radius. Correct, Mike. You have to take your number in feet and transfer it to inches. So we went and figured out for a 12-foot radius, our track degree has to be at 1.59. If your track degree is 1.59, tip of advice, give yourself a couple, 2-3 tenths of a degree. Because what happens is, okay, 1.59 may be the number, but maybe the consistency of you pulling that handle isn't the same. So if you make yourself a little tighter, you can always overcorrect. The problem is when you overbend a piece of metal, you can always open it back up. When you underbend it, you can't close it anymore because you can only run a piece of track through the machine one time. So now we're gonna take that 1.59, we're gonna come over here, and now, here we go, Kaka, you're gonna loosen this nut up. The reason why that is important to loosen that nut has a very big job to do, but it's a very delicate piece of equipment, okay? So what you're gonna do, you have to loosen it up, take your degree, set it to 1.59. So we go 1.59 at 3, 1.62, we'll set it there. Now we're gonna tighten this up, okay? Now that that's tight, that's gonna keep the gauge setting where it's at. Okay, so you never want to move your gauge setting knob without loosening that locking nut for the simple fact that it's made out of plastic, and if you give it too much force, it's not going to have the strength to hold your degree setting where it needs to be. Okay, so be very careful of that. So now we're going to take our track, put it through, bring it up to the mark, close the gate, bring down the handle, listen for that beautiful sound, let it come up, open it up, there's our bend, okay, ruler, hourglass to the center of the bend, pivot finger, 1.64, a little tighter than, no, hold on, I'm looking at this backwards. .63. Good. So there's your track. It's set for the product that you're going to be using. Now, is there any questions on anything we went through? Does everybody understand? Okay. I got a question for you guys. Can you go from the blue line to the red line in the middle of production or in the middle of your calibration? Mike, correct. You cannot. If you start your calibration with the blue line, you have to finish your calibration and the bend of your production using that blue line. I got another question for you guys. The way this was presented to you, was there any part of this presentation that you did not understand or found it hard to comprehend? Is there anything that I can do to change it to make it a little easier, a little more understanding? Okay, Mike, I can understand. Maybe, so what you're saying, like, have you guys come up here and bend up here instead of me showing you guys up here with the video? That's good. The answer to that question is, the reason why I did it in here like this, I want you guys to have more of an understanding of what's going on. And when we go out to the shop, we got bender and space out there, and then we will go ahead and do that. Okay, but no, that's a good point. Maybe I can figure out how to bring people closer, maybe make more space and bring a couple benders in here. Good point. We'll try that for next time. Thanks. Okay, so if there's anything else, cool. Let's get our hi-hat safety glasses, get our PPEs on, grab your gloves, leave your phones in the classroom.